A very warm welcome wherever it is you're tuned in from Kenya, East Africa and around the world. Welcome to the biggest tech conversation in Africa. TECHOVER starts now. I am NTV's in-house techie Brian Jajatieno, and today we'll be talking about something very technical. The Internet of Things, IoT. If you've made it online, what does it mean? How does it apply to you on a daily basis? What is it for you? What's in it for you to make money out of? Because at the end of the day, our knowledge must translate to economic benefits. That and so much more on this show with a woman in tech, which you do not want to miss. But first off, the tech news of the week. This week, Business Daily writer Kabui Mwangi helps us analyze security mishaps that may have cost Equity Bank 1.5 billion shillings. Recent media reports that Kenya's second largest financial institution by asset base, Equity Bank, has suffered a heist that has seen its coffers relieved of at least 1.5 billion shillings in a suspected insider job, have lifted the lid on the emerging need for organizations to shift the deployment of their system protection gears to guard against internal breaches. Pundits who spoke to Business Daily and TECHOVER highlighted the need to train focus on what they termed as a neglected yet crucial safety aspect whose breach could result into far-reaching impacts in not only business losses but also critical data leakages. But what exactly could have gone wrong in the Equity Bank's case? According to Clifford Ogeto, the head of cybersecurity at Nairobi's based information services company Eclectics International, insiders from different units could have collaborated to create new accounts, update the payroll information with the new accounts, and approve the transfers, adding that there is little likelihood of external infiltration. Ogeto told Business Daily's Kabui Mwangi, who assisted in producing this week's news, that payroll processing is typically initiated by Human Resource Department, sending payroll data to the Finance Department, which in turn forwards the requests to payments. So it's a process that involves multiple steps of approval. Ogeto added that it is possible that someone from any departments either received a payroll with altered recipient accounts or modified them along the way. Changing payroll account detail also requires some paperwork, which means the process was likely bypassed. Techies, however, poke holes into the presented narrative, noting, for instance, that the transfers could have been easily flagged since payroll is usually processed during work hours. Further, reports that only one person's credentials were used to move the funds come off as incomplete, with analysts asserting that critical business processes like payroll processing require maker-checker, which means there could be other people involved. To ensure an additional layer of protection, IT industry specialists and experts have recommended a raft of measures that organizations across all economies can deploy to keep at bay similar or even severe occurrences. For a start, the experts say organizations need to step up the streamlining of their IT governance structures to ensure different units within the IT department work independently such that there is no overlapping roles. Other recommendations include enforcements of internal policies such as temporarily disabling user accounts when they are on leave, conducting staff background checks during employment, and periodically thereafter enforcing the maker-checker approval for critical processes, as well as implementing fraud detection systems that can check for unusual transaction patterns. In recent months, Kenyan banks have stepped up their spending in updating and acquisition of new software, retaining staff and hiring new talent as part of measures aimed at scaling the anti-fraud war amid rising threats on the sector that holds nearly 6 trillion shillings in customer deposits. Last year, for instance, NCBA Bank spent $31 million in modernizing systems to fortify its cybersecurity infrastructure, while ABSA, which lost 49 million shillings to fraudsters and thwarted attempted fraud worth 498 million shillings during the period, has admitted that it was forced to purchase new anti-fraud systems as well as upgrade existing ones. Other lenders have stepped up training of staff on the ever-evolving trends in fraud as well as dismissed employees aiding theft. KCB handled 48 disciplinary cases related to fraud, in which it dismissed 22 employees as 26 resigned during the investigations, noting that its disciplinary process is an effective means of deterrence of fraudulent activities. The increased investment in anti-fraud war has also come on the back of regulators imposing stricter guidelines and enforcement mechanisms that expose banks to huge financial fines when fraud or customer data leakages occur. Very well, then now you're up to speed with what's been happening in the tech world. Time now for that interview with Faith Muthoni. Faith, good to see you.
Good to see you.
What is IoT for the person who is hearing this for the very first time?
So IoT in full is the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
And from just the name, Internet of Things.
Yeah.
So with things, we are talking about now the connection of physical objects or devices that are connected over the internet, and now they can communicate with each other. So these devices are just like the way you know the internet. So let me take you back to where the internet started.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, the first wave of the internet, we saw the personal computers. The first wave was the personal computers, where computers could communicate with each other, and they also allowed people to also communicate. Now, the second wave brought in the mobile phones and the tablets. Now, these are the handheld devices, the computers that can be held on the hand. So the second wave of the internet brought now the communication between handheld devices. Now, that's the phone and the tablets. And then now the third wave is what we are talking about, the electronic devices. All home appliances can connect with each other. So these are devices that we can see or use at our home, like the TV, refrigerators, the smartwatches. I think that's the most common thing when you talk about the IoT, and that's what people use on a daily. So that's how these physical objects can communicate with each other. Yes.
So from your explanation, I think it's a very simple concept, but it's made complicated by just the word IoT.
Yes.
Very nice. Let's get a bit technical. What are the basic components of an IoT system?
Okay, so with the IoT, there are 4 main components when you talk about the IoT. So for each to be an actual system, for it to work, you need the devices themselves. So these are the devices that collect the data. These are the devices that are now, you know, without them, you cannot have IoT. So these devices now, they can be just as simple as a mobile phone, as simple as your smartwatch, as simple as your TV, and they have sensors in them, and these sensors are the ones that collect data, and this data can be in form of maybe, it can collect data from the environment, temperatures, humidity, motion when you're moving. Yes, so that's the first thing when you talk about the components of IoT. The second thing now is the connectivity. How are these devices connected to each other? So these devices can be connected to each other via the internet, or that is a Wi-Fi, or even as simple as a Bluetooth. Because now, you know, I've talked about the smartwatches. These smartwatches are connected to your phone via a Bluetooth. So that's the medium of connectivity between these devices. The other media can be cellular networks. That's the simple Safaricom, Airtel, 4G. Now we've seen 5G coming in. And
there's 5.5G, and countries are already talking about 6G.
Oh.
Yeah, very interesting. But anyway,
very interesting, yes. So that's the connectivity between these devices.
Interface,
and then the third component is now the data processing. How this data is processed so that people can understand it, so that it can make an informed insight. So this data, when it's collected by these devices, you know, it cannot make sense to a human. So it needs to be processed. So what happens, it's taken to the cloud, and then now this cloud, there's analysis that is done to this data. It can give you something that is insightful. It can give you now data that you can interpret with, and now it's taken to your mobile phone. Then the fourth thing is now the user interface. How people interact with this system, and how do users actually interact with IoT, or the Internet of Things. That's the mobile phones. It can be as simple as a mobile app. It can also be a web dashboard or alerts that come to your phone.
Yeah.
So yes, so the 4 things: we have the devices and the sensors. Number 2, we have connectivity. Number 3, we have data processing. And number 4, we have now the user interface, how users interact with IoT.
Let's gloss over the data processing end to end. How do IoT devices, or IoT as a technology, as we know it, process data behind the scenes?
Okay, so we talked about the sensors. Yeah? So the first thing is, now these sensors collect data from the environment. I want to use the example of a smartwatch because people can relate with so much.
Yeah.
So assuming you have a smartwatch and you have, like, you want to do your health, goals, maybe walking, your steps, or even running. So this smartwatch has a sensor in it. It will collect the data of your steps or the motion or the environment around you.
Yeah.
Now this data is stored in some things we call gateways.
Okay.
So these gateways, they take this data and store them in either a cloud space or it can be stored in the device itself. So like some of these devices come with storage, so this data can be stored in the device itself or it can be taken to the cloud. And when it's taken to the cloud, that's when now data starts being processed. And I think that's where I think we see IoT and artificial intelligence connecting with each other, because you need some of these artificial intelligent things, technology, to actually interpret this data that has been collected. So what happens, the data now goes through a whole processing, a whole analysis, you have predictive analysis, and then now it transforms it into data. Now what you receive on your mobile phone is data that can tell you, you took how many steps today, you didn't reach your goal.
Yeah.
You did. you should do better tomorrow.
You should do better tomorrow.
Such things now. That's how the entire thing goes round.
Okay.
So now it is transformed into information.
From your experience as a techie, which industries are experiencing the biggest impact of IoT and why?
I think coming to Kenya, the agricultural space is seeing a lot of IoT. And that's, I think farmers have really embraced this technology. We have devices that can, they're called soil moisture sensors. They can detect the amount of moisture in the soil. So anytime the soil becomes dry, then it can either send a message to the app for the farmer to know and to know that the soil moisture has reduced, or it can be integrated with the irrigation schemes. Now these automatic irrigation schemes, it can actually cause the irrigation pump, that these sprinklers can actually, what do we call it?
Irrigate the farm.
Irrigate the farm and the crops and all that. There are actually other sensors that can detect even the nutrient level in the soil. And now these devices can transform this data and actually send it to the farmer in their mobile app, and the farmer can be notified when something is happening at their farm at the comfort of their home. And sometimes these sensors can be connected to the irrigation, automatic irrigation system, where now they can trigger these irrigation pumps when the soil moisture goes down. So that's the first, I think the first industry that has seen a lot of IoT. The other thing, I think with farmers, we have the livestock collar devices that are IoT devices that can actually detect the health of the animals. They can actually detect also the movement of the livestock. When an animal goes away from the herd, the farmer can be notified. I think also in the wildlife sector, we have seen the IoT devices. They've collared the lions there, so that when you hear there are lions that are stranded or straying in Rongai, what happens there?
That is normally what's happening.
Yes.
And I think it also helps to take the population of the animals and all that. So you find KWS often giving reports of how many elephants we have, etc., etc. So that's the same technology.
Yes, that's the same technology, sends a message to them. And I think also the energy sector in Kenya, we have these meters that are automatic. They can actually tell you your electricity usage from your home. Yes, there's an app that you can actually, it can tell you the consumption of your electricity. It can tell you when you're about to exceed maybe your limit. And it helps you to actually manage your devices, electronic devices, and
Great. Let's talk about security, which is a big issue in this era. Of course, we're working with interfaces that can be breached.
Yeah.
And that is a constant concern for so many people. And especially if you are relaying devices in between your phone and, let's say, the house, or your phone and the watch, then there is that interface there that can actually be compromised. What are the biggest concerns in security in IoT as we speak?
When you talk about data, and anytime you hear internet, that means there's a whole network where people can, actually devices can communicate with each other. And what happens when there's data and there's internet, the first thing is security or security problem.
There's an exposure issue there.
Yes. Okay. So this data can be exposed to unauthorized access. And it can be breached. And so that's the first thing. I think it's a very major problem when it comes to IoT. But the good news is the manufacturers or the companies that actually develop these devices, they are able to counter these security breaches. And I think in one of the ways that they do that is to ensure that they have encrypted this data end to end, and also using the secure communication protocols to ensure this data now, when you're communicating, it's very secure.
Great. So how are companies addressing the privacy issues around that? I know you've touched on them, but there's a bigger concern, especially when in a country that has a data privacy act of 2019 thereabout. So how are companies addressing some of these things, because the issues concerning self-regulation still come up every other time when security is talked about?
I think the companies have become very aware about these privacy issues and also the regulations that are there in place. So the first thing is to ensure that first their devices are secure. And I've talked about now the encryption of data. I've talked about the secure communication protocols. And now the third thing is that they make the user aware of what is happening. So when you're receiving an IoT device or a device that can be connected to the internet, I think most of the time, the first thing is that you will see the terms and conditions. It tells you you have to be aware that this data can be transformed, or the internet can be used to actually get insightful information. So that's the first thing. They make the user aware of what is happening. And now the user can actually be able to determine which data do I share with these people. So you can regulate as a user. That's why it's very important to read the terms and conditions. I know many people don't read.
I don't read them.
I know many people don't read them when it comes to these devices, but it's good to be aware what happens. So when you receive your smartwatch, that's the first thing. You will see the terms and conditions. And now it will make you aware that what's happening. This data can be sent to someone, or it can be used to give insightful information.
Great. Finally, how do you see the evolution of IoT happening in the near future, really?
IoT is here to stay. We've seen the first wave, the second wave. Now we are in the third wave, where devices are connected to each other. And I think there's a prediction that in 2025, 80 billion devices will be connected to each other. So we are going to see more of this. And I think the good thing is that it will make our lives better. It's going to make things efficient. It's going to make the normal tasks that you do on a daily basis to even be easier. You know, refrigerators can now actually tell you that you're running out of stock, you're running out of groceries. You can actually go and, refill your refrigerator. It can give you a shopping list of what you need to. So these are things that we are going to really see in our homes.
Smart living.
Yes, we're going to see them in our homes. You're going to experience such things. Now we have the electronic cars. They can sense you can actually allow them to drive themselves when you're tired. So we are going to see a lot of this even in the near future. And let's embrace this technology.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Faith. And I hope you see I hope we see more ladies like you in the tech space. We're very, very intentional about that here at TECHOVER.
Thank you so much.
Great. And that's the discussion on IoT, the Internet of Things. I hope you've learned a thing or two, like myself. We now take a short break. We'll be back with more. Don't go too far. Welcome back to Africa's biggest tech conversation and show, the Takeover, right here on NTV. Time now for our founder this week. And this startup is actually IoT based. We've talked about Charles Oduk's journey in entrepreneurship and in the startup ecosystem in this country and abroad and of course internationally. But he started with Beba Begi, which is short-term packaging materials that you can use to store your devices so that you're not vulnerable to theft or anything of the sort. Smart lockers, really. So these smart lockers are what we're reviewing today in Startup of the Week. Have you ever been caught up in a lot of errands to run in the city and you feel insecure about going to those errands with valuables like work phones and laptops? Well, an innovator has been creating a solution for the last 8 years. Charles Oduk, the founder of Pike Limited, has been creating Beba Begi, smart electronic lockers supported by the Internet of Things technology.
So what we do at Beba Begi is we offer short-term storage, secure short-term storage as a service for commuters in Nairobi CBD through ATM lockers. Picture your daily routines, you're running errands here and there. You may need somewhere where you can basically put your items for some few hours securely. Because one of the biggest factors that people do not even know is Nairobi is the 9th most unsafe and insecure city in Africa. In fact, the crime to safety index ratio is so high that the crime to safety index is 59 to 41. That literally means 59% of the times you're walking in town, you're not safe. So we saw a gap there, and the founding journey has been quite stretchy. It has come with a lot of lessons. Also given the fact that we have bootstrapped, we've never fundraised. So I think the journey traces back to when I started building Beba Begi in 2013. At the time, it was just basically a tabletop project that I was just doing out of for fun, until I actually did encounter theft and mugging. I remember back in the day, I was with my friend who apparently passed on, but we were changing matatus between town to Isili, and you're carrying your laptop. And then, you know, it's a rush hour, so there's a lot of movement. And within no time, when we were already inside the matatu, the laptop was gone. So we were just like, wait. We were like, I think at some point, people definitely do need this solution. So I went into deep research and found out that there is a magnitude of 2.5 million daily average commuters in Nairobi CBD every day who are affected by this menace. So I think now from that point, it was now intentional. So I started building. But at the time I was in campus, so there was the school and then there's also the money factor. So it took me quite a while. It took me 5 years to build the first prototype, which was basically a plastic. And then 1 year later, in 2018, towards the end, I happened to meet Africa Stocking, or rather Sam Gikandi, the CEO of Africa Stocking. And we got some small funding to build the first POC, that's a proof of concept. And within 7 months, we had a locker that we could showcase.
For as little as 20 shillings, you can keep your valuables in the lockers. And here's how you do it.
So basically, if you're a commuter and you're moving around with your items or your valuables, you'll identify a Beba Begi location of your convenience. So we are in different locations, but the most important thing, it's very easy to use. It's just like using your ATM. So you'll of course have 3 options. There's store, retrieve, and parcel delivery. So I just want to store this. So I'll just go to option 1, and then I'll be given different sizes. So different sizing based on the time and duration are displayed on the locker, what is not prohibited. And it gets to a point where you can use as little as 15 shillings per hour to store, or 1,500 per month. So let's say I have looked at my bag. This will definitely fit in a small locker. So I'll select, and then it will ask me to enter a valid M-Pesa number. This number will be used for billing you via the M-Pesa prompt. So I'll just enter the office number. You will be asked to re-enter that number in the event you may have missed on 1 digit. If they don't match, then the locker won't open. But if they match, like right now, the next stage will be enter a PIN that you will recall when you're coming to collect your items. So I'll just put 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll repeat that PIN as well. I may have missed out on 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what happens next is a locker will be automatically allocated to you. So you can put in your items, And or if you have a mobile phone and you want to charge it, there's a fast charger. You just get to plug in your cable like that. And then you plug in your phone, and there you go, you're charging. So you can leave in your items here securely. The good thing is you're not working with any keys. Once you lock that locker like that, it's yours and nobody else can access your items. So at the same time, you can also use the same number when you're dropping for someone else. You could be dropping a parcel for me, but I'm not in town. The number that you'll put is mine, and that number will be the one that is used for during delivery. So let's say you've gone around your errands, you've done your business in town, you want to come and pick back your items. You will just move into the second option, which is retrieve. You will enter the phone number that you entered during storage. I will put that number in again. And also just to make sure that we keep all this data together. If this number is not registered, then it won't go to the PIN part. So now I'll just enter my PIN. Now at this point, this is where the payment happens. So conventionally, it's supposed to be it's supposed to appear as a prompt on my phone, making it 100% automated. But right now, I mean, in some cases where the payment prompt is down, like right now, an admin is able to give you access by just tapping that, and you can see all my stuff are here. So I can pick my items, of course with my phone as well, and then I can lock my locker, and now the next person who wants to store can come in and access that locker.
Charles admits that despite the brilliance behind the innovation, not so many Kenyans know about it, and they have had to invest heavily on sensitization for their target market to appreciate the value of the bags to their convenience. However, they have an illustrious experience of partnerships with shops, online vendors using e-commerce, event companies, and the government. He recounts their biggest sale break was in working with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, or DPP.
And I remember at the time the problem was, a lot of files usually disappear in courts. You find that, files are mysteriously disappearing and then cases are thrown away. So when they came to us, they told us, you guys, you make electronic lockers. Can you guys build us this system in such a way that if it's Branji who opens that locker, Branji is the one we should question, if it's myself. And up to date, the lockers are working perfect. I think that was when we closed one of the biggest B2B sales. Actually, that was a B2G. But then now it gave us quite some mileage. It brought in some more new people into the team. And that's how I actually brought in my CTO as well, we are in the process of bringing him as my co-founder. But I think one of the biggest things that this entire journey has brought for me personally is the fact that bootstrapping has taught me a lot of things that I don't think I would have learned if I had fundraised. Right now, if I fundraise, I know where to channel money. I know what to prioritize. But back in the day, I think if you would have given me money, I think we will be one of the people regretting why we never really had a plan. So it's a very painful process. This is true. Bootstrapping is a painful process because this is your baby, but you're seeing your baby starving. It's like literally seeing your baby starving. So at this point, you have to do every single thing you can to actually keep things running.
Charles hopes to stay a long time in this game, improving the model of Bebabegi and creating safety and convenience in many markets globally. And that's our startup this week. I know I keep saying this, that Kenyans never cease to amaze me, but yes, they really never do cease to amaze me. Where I've seen such kind of technology was in MWC in Shanghai, China. It's really, really beautiful, and it's good that Charles is also pushing that here in Kenya. Let's now get our tech tip this week and close the show.
Hi guys, and welcome to this week's tech tip of the week. This week, I'm going to show you how you can avoid being scammed the next time you go and buy a new iPhone. These days, it is very easy to be told that you're buying a brand new iPhone, yet the box is fake. So here are some steps you can follow to ensure that the iPhone you buy is actually brand new. So at the back of every iPhone box, there's usually two numbers. There's the IMEI number and the serial number. So what you want to do is on a separate device, go to this website called iamlocker.com. Then scroll down and then you'll see a section where you're supposed to write the serial number. Go ahead and do that and then click check. And then it's going to show you some details. So where you want to check it, so it's written past first activation. That should read no. If it reads yes, that means that that iPhone has been used before. And then down there you can also see the estimated date of purchase. Once you verify this information and you unbox the phone, also make sure that the serial number on the box matches the one that is on the phone. That's it for this week, and see you in the next one.
And with that, I hope you're ready for the big IoT bubble that is going to affect your life in a positive way, and you prepare for it. It is not Mazinga Ombwe, it is just technology and things getting smarter and the internet being more user-friendly for you to be able to extract value out of it. That's why we end it at on Takeover this week. Thank you so much for making time. We do this again next time. My name is Brian Jojotieno. Stay techie and may tech live forever.